Amazon Seller Journeys, one of my favorite podcasting formats where we go in depth with somebody who's been successful and tells us some tips and tricks that they've learned along the way. Today, I talked to Ben Leonard, who's the classic millennial entrepreneur, the founder of Beast Gear, built a business on a laptop, in a cupboard, in his spare time. But the difference here is that Ben grew this international 7-figure business and successfully exited it 3 years later. The business Holy Grail, as it were. He sold it to Thrasio, one of the first European brands that did, and he's since gone on to open up his own Ecom Brokerage. So today, we'll bring on Ben. Selling on Amazon is difficult. It's everything but passive income. I share videos like this one to help Amazon sellers on their journey. My name is Stephen Pope, and I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy. When Amazon turns your world upside down, tune into My Amazon Guy to land safely and grow your Amazon business. On Amazon.
The first thing I sold was a skipping rope or a jump rope if you're in North America. And that was the first product and went on to become the flagship product for the first brand that I grew. And that brand was called Beast Gear, and the jump rope was called the Beast Rope. And I sold that I first made a sale to someone I didn't know in about June 2016.
And when you say you first didn't know him, what do you mean by that?
First few sales were definitely friends and family, which was I think pretty standard back then at any rate. You're very excited to launch your first product. Hey guys, I'm selling a product on Amazon. Go buy it and tell me what you think of it. That kind of thing. And then
sure,
all of a sudden that turns into real strangers that you don't know finding your product on the internet and buying it. And it's an amazing feeling when you first get those sales.
So tell me like how you came up with the idea and how did it come to matriculate and develop?
Yeah. So unlike a lot of people, I didn't have an idea to start a business selling products on the internet, let alone Amazon. I stumbled into e-commerce. My background is ecology, and I was working as an ecologist at the time. And I needed to take a break from work. I got signed off by the doctor. I got quite sick, and I had to take a break from my fitness hobbies. And I needed something to do. My girlfriend, who's now my wife, was studying, and she was busy, and encouraged me to spend my time on this idea to create a brand of fitness equipment. And when I first came up with the idea, I had no idea where I was going to sell it. I didn't even know that third-party selling on Amazon was a thing. But my scientific background gave me a bit of an unfair advantage to other people who were in my position, because I was very used to testing a hypothesis, seeing what happens, analyzing the results, tweaking what I do, and going again. And so that kind of scientific mindset helped me in my learning by doing process. And very quickly, I discovered that a great place to find people who were in shopping mode was Amazon. And I could, like many other people, open a third-party selling account and start selling on there, and start building my own website on an easy platform like Shopify and acquire customers there. And I learned by doing, and soon built out a whole suite of products.
And as you started to expand that, a lot of businesses run into challenges along the way. What was the biggest challenge on your story?
Well, there were quite a few. And at the time, it can be quite scary, but it always seems to turn into a great learning process. There's quite a few challenges, but here's one. Intellectual property. I fought off a pretty vicious intellectual property attack. So I'll give you the story. I developed a product. It was a thick bar adjustment product. So it was like a sleeve that you'd put onto a barbell or a dumbbell to make it thicker and therefore more difficult to use. And I worked with a professional product designer to take my layperson ideas and turn them into a reality. And then I had those ideas protected with a design registration, which is somewhat similar to what in the United States you'd call a patent. And I had that done with an IP attorney. And I'd created a great product, which was better than the main competitor, which had been unchallenged for about a decade and was frankly overcharging customers. And so, because I was charging customers a fairer
Can you
price,
do the healthcare industry next, Ben?
oh, I'd love to.
Please. Or people over here in the United States would be gracious if you could, knock
Yeah,
down the cost by 700%.
the system over here is somewhat different. And so my product became the leader in the space because it was better and it was a fairer price. And so this other brand was somewhat upset about this. And this brand was owned by an enormous corporation. And so they got in touch with me through some pretty scary letters telling me that I had to stop selling or face doom. And they had my product suspended on Amazon. And as we all know, sometimes Amazon tends to shoot first and ask questions later.
Never happens.
Not at all, no. And so
I don't have like a bulletproof vest that I sleep with at night for my Amazon selling account. Not at all.
Oh man. And so, you get that heart attack moment, right? When you open your account, there's a little red flag there, your product's been suspended and you see what's going on. And the letters are very scary. And this organization knew that I was a one-person operation on a laptop in a spare room. And it was pretty clear to me from the letters that they had experience of doing this to other people in my position. And I think they fully expected that I would just stop selling and go away. But I spoke with my IP attorney and we did a bit of homework and we discovered some interesting things. The first was that actually, as we knew, my product wasn't infringing on their patent. Second thing was that my product was entirely well protected by the design registration I had done ahead of time. And the third, and this is the really hilarious one, was that the huge organization who owned that brand had acquired that brand, that product, from an entrepreneur similar to me, maybe a decade before. But the mistake that entrepreneur had made was that he'd had his patent done on the cheap. And so the drawings for his patent were not very good. And actually, when my intellectual property attorney looked carefully at his patent, we discovered that the drawings were so poor that they didn't actually protect their own product. So we went back to them and we said, look, Ben's product is not infringing on your patent. Here's why. And in fact, if you don't leave Ben alone, we're going to go to court and have your patent invalidated because it doesn't properly represent your product. And very quickly they went away because they knew.
I'm sure they did.
They knew if we did that, the whole space would open up and the market would become flooded with knockoffs of their product. And my product was not and is not a knockoff of their product. It's just a better version of it. And so they went away. Amazon reinstated my product, and my product went on to continue to become the leader in that space. But it was incredibly scary. And I lost a lot of money. I tried to recover the cost of the lost sales from them, from when my product was suspended, and I tried to recover my legal fees, but I was hit with radio silence, and I decided to just leave it at that. I was satisfied that I'd got reinstated, and I made my point.
You're back up. Yeah.
And it was time to move on and put my energy into other things. So that was the biggest and scariest challenge I think I faced. But there's plenty of them. I think all entrepreneurs face a lot of challenges, but it's overcoming those challenges that can make life a lot easier. Like, for instance, I like to think of these challenges as hoops that you have to jump through, like kind of like Sonic the Hedgehog, right? You jump through all the hoops, the rings, and you get the points, right? And sometimes when you get scared,
I too play video games. Yes.
Sometimes when you get scared of these hoops you have to jump through, you just go away. But actually, if you go to the effort of jumping through them, on the other side, you emerge ahead of the competition and in a land of opportunity. I remember when it was 2017, so it was before Brexit, before the UK left the EU. But nonetheless,
I'm sure that made your life so much easier selling on Amazon.
Oh, it did then. I mean, Brexit has been a total minefield, man. I mean, a massive disaster and probably the biggest mistake we've ever made in the UK. But in pre-Brexit, to register to sell in Europe on the pan-EU program, you had to register for VAT in France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Poland, and the Czech Republic. And you had to register separately for every country in each local language and jump through various hoops. And at first I thought, no, I'm not going to bother. But then when I did jump through those hoops, I emerged on the other side. I practically doubled my sales overnight by moving from the UK into the pan-EU system because so many of my competitors in the UK couldn't be bothered doing it. So it was like, it was like a hunter-gatherer emerging over the crest of a mountain to this lush valley of resources in front of him because it was unexploited and I had gone to the effort of scaling that peak where other people couldn't be bothered. So yeah, that was another challenge, and I think that was a big lesson, which was, jump through the hoops.
So that's a really good experience that you mentioned. So along the way, what advice would you give Amazon sellers to incorporate early on when they're building their business, right? So you had a very major pitfall that you overcame
Mm,
successfully, which quite frankly, in the legal sphere, it's not very often you hear from a success case like this. Usually you
yep.
hear from the people that like gave up or left it alone, right? So it's a very, very unique situation. But as you went through, what sort of advice would you give Amazon sellers that they could learn from your journey?
Well, I mean, the obvious one on the legal side is get your intellectual property um, uh, in order straight off the bat. And I see it in the Facebook groups a lot. People say, "How can I get a trademark?" And somebody replies, whether it's the UK or the US or whatever, saying, "Oh, you can do it for a couple $100. Just do it on this website." No, don't do that. That's an absolute disaster. I'm all for, bootstrapping and the exciting time of trying to start your business without a lot of money. But when it comes to intellectual property, don't scrimp. I made that mistake myself. If people want to, they can even look it up. Um, if you look on the UK Intellectual Property Office website for the trademark for Beast Gear, you'll see a version registered in 2016. And then you'll see a set of identical marks registered a year later. And the reason for that is that the versions that I registered myself in 2016 were terrible because I'm not an intellectual property attorney, and I made the mistake of thinking I could do it myself. A year later, I had them redone by a top intellectual property attorney, and the scope of the protection that those marks then gave the brand was far wider, which then protected the brand from other people trying to come into our space. And it also gave us a more valuable asset, because intellectual property
Mate,
is an asset that adds value to your business when it comes to exiting, which is, hopefully where everyone's going, which probably brings me, go on.
no, finish your thought.
Yeah, it probably brings me to the next point I would say to people starting out, which is build a brand. Because, gone are the days of, the gold rush of 2014, 15, 16 of just sell stuff on Amazon for a quick buck. Anyone with vision should be building a brand and considering Amazon as one of several sales channels. And the end game ought to be making that brand into a valuable ad that you can sell. And the wider the moat you have around that brand with things like intellectual property, the better.
So when you were thinking about trying to, I mean, like the protection that you got that made it more valuable for your exit. So let's cut to the chase now. So how did you exit, and what was the story there?
Yeah, sure. I was about 3 years in. I started the brand in early 2016, and early 2019, I came to the realization that I could exit for a significant amount of money, which would be a fantastic safety net for my family and pretty much set us up. My wife was pregnant. We wanted to move house, and I was becoming aware of these, whispers on the grapevine that mergers and acquisitions in e-commerce was becoming more mainstream. This was 2019. Okay,
Yeah,
so
before anybody even knew what Amazon aggregators were, right?
exactly. I think Thrasio officially became a company in September 2018. And so I
They
approached
they
several
just they
brokers.
just announced they're delaying going public.
That's correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so
their co-CEOs just resigned.
and it's a pretty big shakeup in the space. But
Yeah,
go on. We
yeah,
don't want to go
sure.
too far in the rabbit hole about them,
Yeah,
but it's topical.
that's a massive topic. Yes,
Yeah.
so I made the decision that I wanted to explore exiting, and I spoke to several brokers, and I settled on one. And the process with that broker took longer than I would have liked for a variety of reasons, which in the end turned out to be quite good, because for a couple of reasons. One was, the longer it went on, the more I was continuing to grow my business, and so the value of it kept increasing. And two was that if I hadn't had a fairly mediocre experience with that broker, I wouldn't have decided to set up a better brokerage. So everything happens for a reason, I guess. And so throughout 2019, I continued to grow the business whilst things went on behind the scenes with that broker. And ultimately, they did find me a buyer, which was, good. My accountant came to the rescue and kind of helped to tidy things up a bit. And the business was sold in October 2019. And I can tell you who it was sold to, because it's public domain. They use me in tons of their PR. It was Thrasio. I'm pretty certain it was their second European acquisition and probably their first British acquisition.
That's that's a pretty good storyline considering how big they are now, right? Like 1,000 employees, several hundred brand acquisitions, and so what a story. So tell me now, when you've taken these bad experiences, first with the intellectual property, and then found a win and doubled down, right? Almost like an investigative reporter journalist, which I have a background in, which is why I kind of draw that conclusion. And then second, you found a way to exit. And during that exit process, you had a negative experience, which led you to try and improve it, right? So this is the entrepreneurial playbook 101, right? Have a terrible experience, be like, holy crap, this thing could be so much better if you just did the simple thing and systematize the thing. So you did that first on a product business, now as a brokerage. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so the broker I used, the individual people were nice and good. Their system wasn't great. And there was a lacking in the accountancy skills department in particular. Rather than having people with strong accountancy chops and mergers and acquisition chops running the thing, they basically had an SOP on how to pull some reports from Amazon and Shopify, slap them in a Google Sheet, and pull out a value. So their process was somewhat lacking. And my accountant, Allison, she's got about 20 years mergers and acquisitions experience and is an accountant specializing in e-commerce. So at the end of the process, we put our heads together and said, well, we could do a better job than that. And we could combine our skill sets to make a better offering for sellers. We saw the gap and we basically filled it. In addition, there was no one really doing that in the UK, and we're in the UK, although we're working globally. And so it's all about spotting the gap and seeing how you can do something better. And I think what was really great with my brand Beast Gear was I was, like many brands, the best ones are started by people who are scratching their own itch. So I was a fitness fan who felt like that for fitness fans who are the average Joe, we were underserved because the industry is so elitist. It's all about the fittest, the fastest, the strongest, the biggest. And I was saying, hey, I'm an averagely fit guy, but I deserve really great fitness equipment. If you're like me, come join my tribe. And it worked for that brand, right? And so with
you built a community, right? Like
we built a tribe. Yeah, we built a tribe of fitness fans.
You say tribe, I think cult. Tribe is a better word, by the way. But the reason why I like the term cult is because the dichotomy that it explains, right? Like there's a whole following, like tribe's cool, but a cult's like, I'm in, right? Like,
it's like us or them. It's like all in. Yeah. It's and so it's an almost cult like evangelical following of fans for that brand. And so with Ecom Brokers, again, scratching my own itch, I understood what was lacking in the experience for the seller. And I'm still an e-commerce business and brand builder, partly because I love it and I know how to build a brand and make it a valuable asset and sell it, but partly because I can't look our clients in the eye and say, oh yeah, I understand where you're coming from as an e-commerce business owner if I sold my brand in 2019, because the industry is moving so fast. So I still have to have like in the trenches experience of what's going on. And so, I felt like that was important.
Every year in e-com is like 5 years in other time. So
yeah, it's kind of like dog years, I guess, or something.
Yeah.
so that's the scratching your own itch thing. And you look at a lot of businesses, and that's how it started. Look at Shopify, right? I think Toby Lutke was building a website for his snowboard brand and realized actually a lot of people could do with a platform a bit like what I've built for my brand. I'll start selling that instead. And I think that's the way a lot of great businesses are formed, is when you scratch.
Same thing for my Amazon guy. I've been, for a decade prior to starting my Amazon guy, I sold on the corporate side as a digital marketer selling on Amazon. And I had my own brands, but I was much better at systematizing the marketing, not the sourcing or the logistics. And so that marketing led me to start the agency and scale that way. So yeah, it happens to everybody. All right. So tell me this, somebody starting today, or trying to scale their $1 million brand and go to the next level. What are some core things that they can't go alone on, that they need support besides intellectual property, And because you hit that one home already.
Yeah. For me, it's all about if you're not an expert in something, don't try and take it on yourself. I think one of the myths that I think is put out there quite a lot is, oh, before you outsource something, you have to do it yourself and become fantastic at it so that you can be sure that the people that are doing it know what they're doing. Yeah, there's kind of a logic to that, but having a good enough understanding is good enough before you outsource that. And so getting stuff off your plate so you can work on what you're strongest at is something that I would really encourage people to do. And that can either be in the form of outsourcing, potentially to an agency such as my Amazon guy, or it can be in the form of partnering. And so I read a book not long ago called Who, Not How by Dan
I have that
Sullivan.
one on my shelf behind me.
Great book.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of partnering. So for instance, in the new baby brand that I'm building, I'm partnering because I'm better at the more high level visionary brand stuff, and my business partner Mark is more better at the nitty gritty operational side. And that's important, to recognize your strengths and your weaknesses and understand where you should be putting your effort.
So for those that, I'll give another book recommendation. So Rocket Fuel and Traction.
Yeah.
So Ben just talked about how he's the visionary and his partner is the integrator. And if you don't have the duo there, it can be very difficult to go it alone. So at my Amazon guy, I frequently fill both seats. And I'm a rare breed, and it's not easy to do both. So yes, Ben, I think you've rightfully identified that partnership success is very key. All right. So how you structure and where you focus your time, and the who, not how, right? So you gotta delegate to elevate, just like you
Absolutely.
mentioned. What about, what's your 5-minute hack today? Somebody could take action in 5 minutes today on their Amazon account that would improve their sales.
Position your brand as the guide on the journey for the customer rather than the hero. That's straight out of Building a Story Brand by Don Miller. And so how that translates to Amazon is this: I think far too many people get too caught up in what is the latest hack for squeezing as many keywords as possible into my listing, or what can I do this to rank and what can I do that to rank. Whereas actually, if people just sit down and ask themselves, what is the problem my customer faces, and what is the solution that they want, and how can I tell them that my product or my brand is providing that solution, and how can I tell them that their life will look better after we've provided that solution. Go and write your listing, go and take your photos, go and make your graphics, go and do your enhanced brand content with that in mind, so that you're telling that story. And naturally your keywords will fall into position, and naturally your copy, your listing, your enhanced brand content will be much more compelling, engaging, and likely to convert. I'm afraid that doesn't sound too much of a hack, because it's not a hack. It's just
still a good
how
answer.
it should be.
Yeah, it's a criticism in some ways, but I like asking that question because you never know what you're going to get. All right, so Ben, you run Ecom Brokers, and somebody that would like to utilize your service, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Sure. You can email me, ben@ecombrokers.co.uk, or you can go to our website, ecombrokers.co.uk, and fill in one of the forms there to have your business valued, or fill in the form to get a free ebook. It's a UK domain, but we're working all over the world.
And you put out a bunch of content, and you're always trying to teach and kind of express that. What are the best ways to follow you if somebody's not ready to hire you, but they just want to hear what you have to say?
Yeah, thanks. I'm on most of the social media networks, Instagram, Ben Leonard Pro, Twitter, Ben Leonard Pro. I'm on LinkedIn, just search Ben Leonard, and I'm on YouTube. Channel is Ben Leonard, and you'll find all my information on there.
Perfect. And you already beat me to what I usually like to end is on the book request. So you already gave a good one. The Who, Not How is a fantastic book reference. So Ben, thanks for coming on the My Amazon Guy podcast. I really appreciate it. I think you've had a lot of value talking about how you really need to structure your business to have that success. So congratulations on exiting your business in 3 years. To the largest business acquirer in the entire space, a la Thrasio. And congratulations on all of that.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right. We'll see you later, Ben. Cheers, guys. This was the My Amazon Guy podcast with Stephen Pope. Each episode helps you grow your sales on Amazon through ideas on traffic and conversion rate improvements. Hit that subscribe button right now to tune in each week. And if you need more help, go to myamazonguy.com.